Former Senator Claire McCaskill is back with us, and joining the conversation is Neera Tanden, President and CEO of the Center for American Progress and former domestic policy advisor to President Biden. Senator McCaskill, I think all of us have applied some more skepticism to polling in recent years as a result of some of the more surprising results of elections that we've all lived through. How much does this new polling matter for Republicans who have to campaign with the baggage that Trump seemingly, apparently brings to the table right now?
Yeah, and, his attention has been widely reported, and I think you certainly understand this, as does everyone else at the table. He only wants to talk about and think about the stuff he wants to talk about and think about. He doesn't care what is on other people's minds. His mind is the only mind that matters. And in his mind, he wants to build the ballroom. He wants to have this gorgeous ballroom that everybody will always remember as the quote unquote Trump ballroom. He wants to build this frickin' arch that is going to be disrespectful to the heroes that are resting at Arlington. He, wants to do that kind of stuff and talk about that kind of stuff and then go after all of his grievances with people he thinks have wronged him and the election stuff. He doesn't want to talk about the things that Americans are most concerned about, and that is they can't get health care in rural areas. Their medicines are going to go up from the Trump administration's actions. They can't afford the gas for their car. They can't find childcare. There's a long list of things that he could have a legislative agenda around. He has no legislative agenda other than yelling at John Thune for not blowing up the filibuster so he can figure out ways to keep people from voting. So it is just mind-boggling to me how bad he is at focusing himself on things that will help Republicans. I don't understand it, but I guarantee you the people in Congress understand it. And I talk to my friends that are on the Republican side of the aisle that are still in the Senate. They are furious at this guy for blowing up all these things that are going to make it really hard for them to hold on to a Senate majority, which they thought was a slam dunk a year ago.
Neera, furious and quiet is what they are. they talking to us, they're talking
both.
to Claire. What it doesn't appear they're doing is telling President Trump how hard he's making this on them. Exactly. When you were in the White House when the midterms were happening, and what I remember is that President Biden and the team there were making sure that other Democrats run however you need to. If you need to attack President Biden, let's just make this not a bloodbath. And it ended up not being, right? It wasn't a red wave, it was a red trickle, right? They barely got a majority. When you look at a president who can't take himself out of it and think and instead think about the success of the party being also his success and not standing in their way over and over and over again. They can't even cleanly walk around and talk about the housing bill because he didn't sign it.
Yeah.
It went in with in spite of him.
Yeah. I think that, I think what's really happening here is I think maybe the White House knows the truth, which is the truth is that the president's numbers are very poor with the American people because they understand that he is actually raising their costs across the board.
So you think they've given up?
I think what's happening is that he can't really campaign on the economy. I mean, people are like, why doesn't he campaign on his accomplishments? Or because he doesn't have accomplishments to campaign on. The housing bill isn't going to, I think he knows as well as I do, it's a good housing bill. It doesn't make up for the gas prices people are paying, the tariffs that people are paying, on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, their big accomplishment, that has led to higher costs for health care. People are going to lose health care. So I think the real problem for the Republican Party is not just Donald Trump's messaging. It's what Donald Trump has done to the American people. And the other problem is every Republican has gone along with that. And then the third problem for them is, they cannot operate as a check on these bad policies because they are a rubber stamp for these bad policies. So, I think Republicans are always like, why doesn't he stay in message? And I think it's honestly because what they actually believe has ended up hurting Americans.
Right. And his message, he's on his message, right? It may not be a helpful one, but he's on his message.
Right.
Yeah.
The Save America Act all the time. That's his message.
Yeah, well, it's also self-preservation, and it's a whole.
Right.
Anyway, Claire, I'm not going to get into the my psychological analysis of non-medical of the president. But Claire, let's talk about. I want to come back to you on you talking to your former Republican colleagues in the Senate who are furious and, to Eugene's point, quiet publicly about what the president is doing. Now, they can be furious and they can feel like the president is not giving them something to run on. But Elon Musk is giving them something to run with. And this is a story from the New York Times on Thursday. Musk plans to spend at least $100 million to help Republicans in the midterms. Musk's group plans to initially target Senate races in at least 5 states, Alaska, Iowa, Maine, Michigan, and Ohio, and is having conversations about the contests in North Carolina, Georgia, and Texas, according to 2 people with knowledge of the super PAC's plans. And this comes on top of donations that Elon Musk has made in the past. I'm not going to read them all. We're going to put them up there on the screen. Is like this isn't chump change. 260 million, 20 million, 10 million, 5 million, all in past races. How worried should Democrats be about Elon Musk's spending in races that right now, when you look at the polling, a lot of these races are looking good for Democrats?
Yeah, well, for one thing, Musk's money this time is going to read a little different to voters than it did last time, because his numbers, speaking of polling, his numbers are terrible. Americans understand that he went into government not really knowing what he was doing, cut a lot of programs that save lives, was bizarre in the way he went about it. Mm-hmm. I think Democrats can use the fact that Musk is funding these races against Republicans, because I don't think those voters I referenced before, those swing voters that decide these elections, I don't think they're big Musk fans at this point. I'm more worried, frankly, Jonathan, about the dark money behind the curtain that will dwarf that $100 million. Our campaigns have been overtaken by dark money. It used to be the candidate had the bulk of the money and the outside money was smaller. Now it's reversed. There are going to be Republican candidates that raise not that much money in hard dollars from contributors that you can see on their report, but they will have tens upon millions of dollars spent on them by people that will never know who are writing those checks. So that's why it's really important that people continue to support Democratic candidates, even with small contributions. And by the way, that map, I want to get this in before I leave you guys this morning. The map is expanding every day. We now have a possibility of winning Kansas. We have a man running in Kansas that nobody's heard of. His name is Adam Hamilton, but he actually is the pastor of the largest Methodist church in the country. And he got 16,000 contributions in the first 30 days he entered the race and raised almost $4 million. He is beloved in the Kansas City area. His church is on the Kansas side. He lives in Kansas, obviously, but he is really a good man. And he is going to be a very strong candidate against that nut Roger Marshall in Kansas. So every day, the battleground is expanding, which is going to make it harder for all that dark money to spread itself as many places as it's going to have to go for the Republicans.